and welcome to the How To Girl TV show. I'm Carol Dodsley, better known as the How To Girl, and today I'm bringing a very special guest for you, Emma Sargent. Emma's been in business for over 15 years and she runs a coaching business with her husband Tim Fearon. Their purpose is to enable business owners and entrepreneurs to build the business they want so they can live the life they want. People come to them because they help them to get clarity of vision, attract and build a loyal customer following, and stand out from the crowd, something that is so important in today's noisy and busy marketplace. They're speakers, and they're also authors of How You Can Talk to Anyone in Every Situation. And they run a membership for growing businesses called Finding the Hidden Money. So Emma has so much to share with you, so many skills, so much knowledge, and I am just so excited and really happy to welcome her to the show. So let's go over and say hello to Emma. So welcome, Emma. I am so excited that you're on the show.
Well, thank you, Carol. I'm excited to be here too.
Cool, and we're both wearing pink.
I know, what a coincidence. We promise, folks, we did not plan to wear pink.
But we both are, and it's a lovely summer day, so it's a great day for being pink. So Emma, I've just given people a little bit of an intro to what you do, and there's lots of facets to your business.
Certainly.
How did you actually get into being in business for yourself in the first place? Was it something you've always done, or did you slide into it? What made you want to run your own business?
Well, actually, this might sound a bit funny, but when I was 6 years old, I said to my mother, I want to run my own business. And she went, yes, well, okay, darling, whatever. And I have always had that in my mind. And there has never been any question in my mind that I would have my own business at some point. And when I left school and I went to university, and I've always been very interested in people, so I did a psychology degree. And I was very fascinated by that, even though, of course, in those days, they weren't very practical at all. Just taught us a lot of theory about things. I went, oh, okay. And then I went into sales. So actually I had a really good grounding on, the sort of understanding people side of things and the selling. I did direct selling. I sold advertising space for 5 years, which is far longer than anyone should ever do it. And which is a brilliant grounding for any kind of selling, because you learn very quickly how to build relationships very quickly and how to really hold on to that. So that was a great grounding. And it was not until I started actually training and coaching full time that I thought, why am I working for someone else? I was going to have my own business, so best I do it. So that was about 15 years ago that I decided to go out on my own.
Cool. So you really have a lot of experience in running businesses if you've been doing it for 15 years.
Right.
What would you say, because you went from employed into working for yourself, what would you say was the biggest challenge for you, or what made it the easiest? I mean, that's two questions, but that transition period from being employed to being self-employed, how did you manage that?
Well, actually, it was a very strange time because it wasn't any more difficult than being employed. And actually what happened was, because I did freelance training and coaching, and actually, we're talking about the late 80s, mid 90s.
Yeah, don't get too old.
I know, but that's terrible. I'm aging myself horribly. I'm only 21. And I went, what did I do? I went from being employed as a full-time training consultant to then being a freelance trainer. And what happened was that I was able to transition very easily. I was very lucky because the company I was employed by took me on as a freelancer. So essentially, I had a sort of really good time where I didn't have to throw out the baby with the bathwater. I was able to segue my way into really forming my own relationships with new prospects whilst keeping you know, the old ones going and still providing the same service. And actually, I earned twice as much as I did as a full-time employee. So it was, you know, suited me perfectly. Right, you know, sort of 3 days a week for twice the money. It's not really hard to make that decision.
No.
So, and I did that really to balance the time when I had my first baby. So that was why I made the leap at the time.
Yeah, I think you saying that when you had your first baby, I think for the ladies out there, that is quite often what they're looking for because they've got their baby and they don't want to go out to work again and leave their baby at home, but they need something and they need to bring in some income. So
Right.
it is a very good way for mums to actually have the best of both, isn't it?
It certainly is. It certainly is. You can do something part time for yourself, and you know, working freelance in the way that I did, really, it wasn't a business, and you know, it wasn't until somebody turned around to me and said, I mean, you don't have a business because you can't exit from your business. And that probably was the key learning that changed everything for me. And of course, I took great umbrage at this person saying this to me. No, what do you mean? I can't believe you said that. You know, after sort of, you know, years of working for myself, which essentially he said to me, you are just working and paying yourself. It's the same as if someone else was paying you. And I was like, oh God, he's right, damn him. And, you know, it was then that I started thinking about, well, actually, I need to build a business that I can, if I wanted to, exit from, which means building value into the business. And that has been my mission over the last 5 years, whilst helping other people build their businesses. So it's, you know, I've not only got, you know, the experience of my own business and also with my husband and business partner having run quite a lot of businesses himself over the years. It's also the lessons that we learn with every single client that we have ever worked for and with. Because, of course, when you're inside other people's businesses for 15, 20 years, you learn a lot about business.
Yeah. So, and you said there, and it's really key, and I think it's something that I teach a lot. There is a difference between being self-employed and running a business.
Right.
You know, and self-employed is selling your time for other people's money all the time. If you go on a holiday, you don't earn any money.
Exactly.
So that must have been quite a time of transition to sort of you were doing it all me for money. What did you do or what did you implement into your business to turn it into a business?
Well, what we started looking at was how can we stop trading hours for money quite so much. So, you know, we knew that we had a lot of goodwill and, you know, at the time we were working with major corporates. And of course, you know, you can get a little bit complacent working for major corporates because, you know, if you do a good job, they like you, they keep booking you, they keep giving you business, you don't ever have to do any marketing. You don't have to think about who your customers are because they're there and you only need a handful. And actually, all of that is a recipe for disaster. And, and certainly, you know, complacency is a recipe for disaster. And that's why I feel so strongly about it. Because what we then started doing is, well, you know, all of our experience over all those years, how do we monetize that in a way that is completely different? And we totally shifted our business to working with small business owners who we knew we could make a much bigger difference to. We don't particularly, I mean, you know, I enjoy working with big corporates and I love running workshops. But at the end of the day, you know, oh God, I'm using corporate speak there, look. And we need a buzzer. And what happens is that whatever difference you make to the people in front of you, there's very often in a big corporate a sort of glitch in the system that you can't have any impact on. And it's very frustrating, especially if you really care about making a difference and helping people to grow and develop and get more business in their lives. And that's in fact what Tim and I both feel very strongly about. And so that's why we decided that we would I think we probably did throw the baby out with the bathwater actually at first, and which made life quite difficult for a while. And we started thinking about, well, what can we offer? What do we know that we can build differently? So we started a membership for people so that they can come and join us in a low-cost way and get business advice and personal advice in terms of their own leadership of their own company and their vision and their beliefs and who are their customers, and really thinking things through in a way where they don't have to spend a huge amount of money learning how to do that. So what we've done is we've built products basically and are in the process of building products out of the information that we know that people can tap into, and we don't have to be spending, we can do one-to-many, if you like. So that's our model, is one-to-many.
Yeah, and I think that is key for a lot of people to think about that. And you said there you transitioned from, because I speak to a lot of people at the moment that are saying, I want to get into corporate because it's bigger money. And you brought up some really interesting points about the fact that there's a glitch, you have to wait for people to make decisions possibly, and you don't get that same relationship with them as you do with the small business owner that
Well, you don't get the same relationship with the leader of the business because you normally wouldn't have access to the owner of the business or the chief executive or the chairman or whoever it is that you would like to have access to. And to be honest, when you start a career like mine, which was, I started off training people how to sell advertising space, for goodness sake. And, that was great. It was fantastic. I was, training graduates. And as you get older, well, as I got older and as I got into management, then I was training people how to do management, and then I got into personal development, I was training people how to do personal development. And then it brings me all to the place that I'm at now. And, you grow yourself with what you are offering other people. And where was I going with that? Oh, yes, and I used to have great relationships with the corporates, and, and I still do. And yes, it is much better money, and we have always charged probably towards the top end, and didn't start discounting when the recession hit. And yes, we lost work because of that, but not very much. We lost work because we completely took our eye off the ball. That was the reason. And no one said, we're not paying your rates. We went, oh, we're not doing that anymore. And we went, whoa, we're going to do this. So, and every now and then we do corporate work. And yes, it is very good money. And I would say to people, well, if you want to work with corporates because of the big money, go ahead and do it. And keep in mind that one day you won't want to do that anymore, or you won't want to do it at the same level that you're doing it at now. And when you stop doing that, you literally have nothing. And there is nothing. And so what if you're like many self-employed people and you've forgotten or haven't been very interested in organising a pension of any sort, for example, not that I might be thinking of myself at all, you've got to think of other ways. And it's all very well people saying, oh, we'll invest in property. Well, that's a whole new that's a whole nother ball game. Don't get me started on that. So, you need to be building value in your knowledge as well as in your business. And it worries me that people do that time for money. Oh my God, now what? suddenly when they don't want to work anymore? Nothing. And I find that really sad because they've got so much that they could give.
Yeah, I think that's very true. And I think when you said there about at some stage you won't want to keep working for the big corporates, so okay, go for that for the money at the moment, maybe. But you've got to think about the future. It's not just about the here and now. And I get other people that come to me and they're sort of saying, well, it's all right, yeah, someone like Emma, she's been in business 15 years and she's worked with the corporates and she had an easy transition. I'm just starting out. How do I get customers that are going to pay me? What would you say to people that, they're in that situation? It's like, well, yeah, okay, so I can work with small businesses, but how do I get to them?
So are we thinking about people sort of like me, so maybe coaches or trainers or something like that, who go, well, how do I get to small businesses if I want to work with them? Is that the question?
Yeah, possibly coaches, trainers, maybe even other service professionals.
Right.
You've got web designers, you've got social media managers,
Sure.
all sorts of people that are out there that are service based, and they know that's their target audience. They're perhaps getting a lot of free loader people who just want everything for free because that's what social media is teaching them, but actually they need to get out there, add value, but get paid for it as well.
Well, that's a very, very, very big question.
I like big questions. Do a little bit of it.
It's a very, very big question, but and there is, of course, a process to that. And I would say the first thing is that the biggest mistake I think that people make is that they don't really know who their customer is. Or they make the mistake of thinking that they understand their customer, and suddenly they start attracting different customers who seem to want their stuff more than the ones that they think should want their stuff. And I'll give you an example. I have just this minute got off the phone from a coaching session with a client of ours who, and I don't have her permission to talk about her, so I'm not going to name names or even give you too much information just in case. But she basically has a piece of software that helps a certain sector of an industry. And it's superb. And she's gone, right, I want these people, and they've probably got, one business, and they've, just started out, and this, that, and the other, and they really need my software because it's really going to help them with cutting costs and this, that, and the other. And actually persuading those people that they need her stuff is a massively uphill struggle. Because they're so far behind in their thinking of what they need that, she's right, they do need it, but they don't need it until they're ready to understand that they need it. Yeah. And she said, isn't it funny, but I've got these corporate people are contacting me, and they've just put my system into their company, it's made the most enormous difference, and but I want to work with these smaller companies. And I said, well, it looks like actually, if that's your passion, the smaller companies, then you need to be really completely and utterly prepared to get that it's going to be an incredibly slow process. So if you feel very, very strongly about that, then by all means do it. But for now, go for the people who are putting their hands up and going, actually, that would be good. So I think it's very, very, very important that you are clear about the people who have the need the greatest, not just thinking about this is the group I want to work with. You've got to be clear about what is the real problem that I'm solving with my thing. And what is my thing? What is the essence of my thing? And, people say to us, because we give, ironically, we provide a lot of stuff to businesses, right the way up the spectrum, which I realise is ironic given that I'm giving you this advice. But actually, your niche doesn't necessarily have to be a certain section of people. It could be a section of people with a specific mindset. But then, of course, they're harder to find, if you like. So what I would say is that you need to be very, very clear about the actual person that you want to connect with. Get a really clear idea. You know, what do they wear? What keeps them awake at night? How old are they? And it wasn't until, you know, we do several iterations with people. I mean, you know, we've got clients who are still, you know, a year down the line going, Emma, can we just talk through who's my customer again? Because you have iterations of that, and that's just fine. And, you know, no business goes in a straight line. It's a real myth that they go in straight lines. It's zigzag. You know, think sailing, golf course, I don't know, whatever metaphor works for you. And you will change your mind, you know, but as long as you keep the essence of you in and what you want and what you can provide that is different from other people, and you keep trying to find the people who have that need and keep talking to them, then you will find them. And they will find you, more importantly. Mm-hmm. Does that partly...
Yeah, and one of the things, as you were saying that about finding the people that have the need, one of the things I think about a lot is quite often, it's like that lady you were talking about, she wants to work with people that have a need, but they're not ready for it.
Right.
So would you say it's also important, they have the need, obviously they need what you're offering, you can solve their solutions, but they have to be ready and want it as well.
Right, and they also have to know that they need it.
Yeah. So just needing it on its own.
Right.
That sort of resonated a lot with me when I started out. Personal development and helping people that were stuck in their lives and they didn't know there was more to life, or they did know and they really wanted it, but they needed what I offered, but they didn't know they needed it, and they were looking everywhere else and they didn't want to pay me to give it to them because it's like, well, I don't need that.
Right. Oh, well, and that's the other thing, is that we have to think about what we're offering in terms of the results that people are getting. You know, nobody wants a coach. No. What does that mean? Doesn't mean anything, does it? What they want is the result that they will get from working with someone. You know, nobody wants a website. They want something that will attract people, that will mean that customers can find them. You know, so we need to really think about how we are talking to our customers in a way, or our potential customers, in what we're putting out there, that means that our message is about what they get. You know, are you coaching them to have the perfect relationship? Are you coaching them to have, you know, more time in their lives? Whatever it is, whatever's your thing, you know, and I remember being, for ages going, yes, well, coaching's my thing. You know, never mind the subject. Well, but you can't think like that because it doesn't work. Yeah. You know, coaching might be your thing, but pick something that you can help somebody with that will really take them forward. Yeah. And then you will attract people. The narrower you think, the more people are attracted to you, which is very odd.
I'm just a dog just come in the room.
Oh, you've got a dog.
My arm's gone down there.
Oh, marvellous.
Yeah, and I think that again is so important because I see lots of people who they've got their website up or their marketing information or their, you know, on social media telling people, I'm a hypnotherapist, I'm a website designer.
So what?
No, but that's a tool. It's not actually,
right.
To me, and you've just hit on that, you have to know what people will get as a result. And again, I messed up when I created my confidence program. I told people I can help you be confident, but that it's like, well, so what difference will that make in my life? And I think that's what you're saying there. It is so key, isn't it?
Right. And actually, it was very interesting. I had a coaching session with a therapist who was an extraordinarily interesting man who he came to us because he had a website. He said, I'm a really good therapist, but I just don't know how to get clients. I really don't know how. I don't know where to start, you know, whatever. I said, well, let's start with your website and how, you know, what happens when people land on your website and what message is there and whatever. Well, and there was every single condition under the sun, practically, you know. You can do, you know, we can do addictions, weight loss, whatever. And then he goes, and I'm just about to train as a hypnotherapist as well. I went, oh my God, why? What is your thing? What do you really love doing? And he said, oh, well, I'm an addiction specialist. And I said, well, you wouldn't jolly well know it. And I said, tell me your story. So he said, well, I'm an addiction specialist because I've been addicted to everything myself. Everything. It's my life's work. Well, of course, as soon as he says that, I said, well, if I'm an addict, so I mean, whether you're an addict, families, members of addicts, I'm sure probably, would be, you know, Googling addiction therapy, Well, when I come to his site, I want to read his story. I want to read how come it's your life work to do this. What are the stories of some of the people that he's cured? You know, and of course, we don't think about doing that. We go, oh, I've got to put all my qualifications on and tell people all the conditions I can treat. And then, of course, you come to his website and you go, well, I don't know whether I fit into all of those things or not. So a really, really important thing is that when people come to your website, they have to know who they are. They have to go to the website and go, oh my God, he's talking to me. Well, she's talking to me. They understand me. And there are very, very few people who connect with customers on their website. You know, the first thing that you should be reading about is, we understand you and this is why. We understand that you are you know, an overworked this or a person addicted to that. Yeah? So that's how you attract people, is by being very specific about who they are.
And I think that is absolute key. I see a lot of websites where they're saying, you click on the about, if you get as far as clicking on the about, and it says, I am this and I can do this and I know how this is, and it's all I, rather than talking about the person that's reading it, because it is them that's looking to say, is this who I want to work with? So if you're only talking about yourself, how will anybody actually want to work with you? Just like you said, they need to have that connection, don't they?
Yes, they really do. And they need to have it like instantly. As soon as they come to your homepage, there needs to be something about you and about, we understand you.
Yeah, and I think that goes back to what you said before about knowing your customer as well.
Oh, well, that's exactly it. You can't do it unless you know your customer. No. Absolutely right. And that's why, you know, it is iterative. You know, it probably 3 years ago, we would have something different, maybe, on our website. Well, we definitely had something different on our website, but, you know, it changes, and the person who you are attracting changes, because you're constantly in a feedback loop, and that's, you know, so important to keep open to the people who are buying your stuff. And, you know, they very often will not be the people that you're expecting. And unless you talk to them and you find that out, you're going to miss a trick.
Yeah, because quite often you'll be working with all sorts of people, trying to attract the people that you think you want to attract, that you think want your product.
Right.
But if you then take the time to look at those people who have actually bought your product or worked with you,
right,
and maybe find out, would you say that it was good to actually research them and ask them, what was it that got your attention?
Definitely. I ask our customers that all the time. About every 3 or 4 months, I send out a little survey. You know, one question that I asked recently, which was fantastic, got some really interesting responses from it, is that if you forgot my name or our company name, what would you search for? And on Google, what would you search for on Google to find us? And it was really interesting, because there was all sorts of things that we hadn't even thought of. And it gives you a really great way to start putting those search terms actually into your copy on your website. So really, it was a very interesting exercise to see what your customer's perception is of you. You know, somebody said that they thought, you know, we were a cutting edge marketing agency. Well, of course, I went, oh my God, really? You know, of course, we teach people to do marketing. We're not a marketing agency, but the fact that, you know, we put out a lot of marketing stuff, you know, he had made the connection and he thought that we were a marketing agency. So it's really interesting.
And again, you said, you know, from all of those responses, that gave you content and keywords to actually use on your website to attract more people that are the people that want to work with you.
Right, and actually, one of the things that we also asked was, you know, here's a list of subject matters, you know, which are your top three that you really think you need to know about? And actually, attracting customers, of course, is like the number one thing that people want to know about the whole time.
Yeah.
You know, that wasn't a surprise, but there were a few things in there that were a surprise.
Yeah. And I think because you just mentioned the top thing is usually attracting customers, which obviously customers are the lifeblood of a business. No customers, no business. But attracting customers is a big thing. It's like, it's not, right, how do I attract customers? A, B, C, D, there you go, off you are, is it? There's so much more to it.
There's so much to it and so many ways. And, you know, I believe very strongly that you need to do what's right for you. And, you know, there are some people who don't want to meet customers face to face. They don't want to be out there. They don't want to get on the telephone. You know, lots of old-fashioned ways work very well with customers, actually. And, you know, when we phone clients who have sort of expressed an interest and then we phone them, funny enough, in the days of internet, people are really surprised and delighted that you phone them. So, you know, the internet has really it works in our favour because people don't expect you to phone them anymore. And, you know, obviously there'll be some types of customers that are more open to that than others. But, you know, there are many, many, many multiple ways of reaching customers and, you know, multiple ways within those multiple ways. And so I think, you know, you've got to just do something. You know, you don't have to master all the ways, but you do need to understand that if you don't contact people, it's going to be no anyway. You know, it's no before you've contacted them, isn't it? You know,
Exactly.
You have nothing to lose by contacting people and just putting yourself out there and going, this is my message. And when businesses start, the best way to get new customers when businesses are just starting out is through networking. There is no other faster way to get a business off the ground, I think. You know, because you get yourself out there and you can start having conversations with people about, well, here's what I'm doing. What do you think? You know, and you can start to build the relationships around getting feedback, actually.
Mm-hmm. And I think where you said, because you mentioned old-fashioned ways work really well, and obviously networking has been around for years.
Forever.
But it doesn't always have to be face-to-face. You know, if somebody lives remotely and that they have to travel 300 miles for a network event, that's not going to work for them. But they can go online and network. It's not networking because you're not standing in a room, is it?
No. Although I would always say to businesses starting out, what I would always start with first is get out into your community and go and meet people and ask them. Tell them that you're just starting out and you've got an idea and what do they think and would they think that they might find that useful one day. Just to get some, and you're not selling, you're researching. And if you go out with that mindset on, then you will get good quality information back that will help you to sell to those people.
And I think that was really important. Don't be afraid to tell people, I'm just because there's a lot of people out there saying, fake it till you make it, tell everybody you're brilliant and you're fantastic.
No, don't do that.
And I think, you know, that was key when you say, just tell them, you know, be authentic and say, look, I'm just starting out, how does this go? Because I think what you're saying there, that will really actually help propel them much more than sitting there and just blasting out a message, I'm brilliant, and this, here you go.
No, I mean, honestly, I just, everybody has to start small. And I think there's far too much stuff out there that makes us think that we ought to be going from 0 to 1 million in a year. And okay, I really honestly, I know some of the people who go from 0 to 1 million a year, but it's not from a standing start.
Really?
Really?
Wow.
It isn't from a standing start. It's everything they've done up into their lives until that point where they decided to do that thing. It all counts. Everything, everybody who is hearing us today, everything you've ever done in your life still counts up to now. It's all experience that you bring with you into your business. And, everybody starts small. And remember that progress is exponential. You bump along the bottom for quite a long time before you start going up in this exponential curve. And I think there's too much stuff out there that makes us think that if we aren't hitting the however much after a year, we're failing. And you're not failing. Yeah. Small steps, make small steps and notice what progress you're making. Because it is all progress. And it's, what happens is that people hit a sort of 6 month or a year and they go, it just doesn't feel like I'm getting anywhere. And that's the point at which they give up. And actually, they're really close to starting to go up that curve when they give up. So don't give up when you feel like giving up, because you just don't know what's around the next corner. And it's all that groundwork. If you give up, you've got to start the groundwork all over again. And I think there's not enough people telling the truth about that, actually. And, because that's not a very compelling message, is it? It's really hard work, folks. It's not a message that sells. Yeah. Go from 0 to 1 million sitting in your underwear at the kitchen table is very appealing. But it doesn't really work like that. And I think for a lot of people, it actually makes them feel less confident and it's less empowering than somebody going, here's the thing, when I started my business, my first sale was £500 and I'm really pleased, And after that £500, my next one was 2,000 and then this and then that. And that's real life. That's how it works.
And I think that's far more authentic. Like you said, there's so many people out there saying, oh, press a button, sit at home in your underwear at the kitchen table. Right. And I think that disempowers, like you say, so many people because they spend their money and invest in those programs and those people, but they don't see any results. So they then get even more, this will never work for me. Whereas...
And of course, there are a lot of those programs that are incredibly good. And, as long as you're not going to get the same results straight off, then that's fine too. Obviously there are a lot that aren't good, but, there are a lot that are very, very good. But please, 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 when you learn new things, don't feel like a failure if you don't get those massive results automatically. And I do feel very strongly that you need to be yourself. Very, very, very important to be yourself. Don't try and pretend to be anyone else. Of course, if you need to feel really confident in the moment, then think about, somebody who's very confident and pretend to be them for a bit. But I mean, generally, don't, the only person you're lying to is yourself. And it comes across. And people will be drawn to you when you are yourself, not when you're pretending to be somebody else.
Yeah, I see a lot of people. The sound's gone a bit funny. Let me just turn my sound down. And they're doing it the way other people have said, this is how you do it. So they're actually putting on a mask. They're putting on an act. but they're then not attracting the customers that they want to work with, because they're attracting the customers that the person they're pretending to be is, which is just like a, what are you doing? This is hard work, because it's not you, and it's not going to feel good for them or their customers, is that?
No, no. It's very, very important. In fact, we just did it was called Building Extraordinary British Businesses Masterclass Series, and it was a series of interviews that we interviewed all sorts of people who were, top of their game in British business. And the overwhelming theme, which we weren't expecting, actually, whether someone was talking about how to write copy or how to tweak your website or how to, run their experience in running a business, the overwhelming theme from the whole thing, and we had 12 speakers, was be yourself.
Yeah.
And, there were a couple of people who even said this is the decade of authenticity. I mean, how marvellous.
Yeah.
And it was really, really interesting because we weren't expecting that as a theme.
Yeah.
It's very interesting indeed.
It is, definitely. And it makes things much easier if you're yourself, because you're not constantly thinking, oh, I have to do it like this. When I worked in corporate and I was a senior manager, I always was pretending to be what they wanted and wearing my suit and talking in the right way and thinking, oh, I've got to use big words.
Right.
And that actually led me to being very, very ill for 9 months.
Right.
And now that I'm me, it's like, oh, this is quite good fun,
Yeah.
And that really is, and it's something that you say, it's come up as a theme, no matter whether it's copywriting, web design, talking to people. I mean, even if you're a plumber, and I don't mean that the plumber, but even talking about a completely different entity of business, if you are yourself as that plumber, the customers that call you back will be the ones that love the way you chat to them over a cup of coffee.
Right.
Or the customers that will call you back are the ones that like the fact you don't chat over a cup of coffee because you're not a very chatty person.
Right. And actually, the secret to all business success is relationships. I really, truly, that is my experience. That is the experience of many, many people. And, even the people who make millions on the internet, they make millions on the internet because of the relationships they have with others and the relationships they have with their customers on the internet. And, it is absolutely crucial that you spend a great deal of your time building the relationships that you can with your customers, with the people on your mailing list, that you just talk to them, that you have a conversation with them, that you just, the conversation is a two-way thing. It's not like a megaphone. And, somebody once said to me about, it was we interviewed a social media expert for our summit. And he said something which was really interesting, which I'm sure you'll love, Carol, which is people treat social media as a megaphone and they need to treat it like a telephone.
Cool.
And I thought that was a great metaphor. And I think that's a really good way to actually sort of, if you like, summarize our conversation, is that, we think too much about how can I market to these people. Actually, just talk to them, just ask them, and build the relationship, and your business will grow through the relationships, not through some snazzy tactic.
Yeah, and that is it's actually a brilliant way to sort of close down, that's a silly thing to say, isn't it, but to end our conversation, because that is the two things that have come towards the end of this that really, really, I believe, and I know you do as well, is be yourself and build relationships.
Right.
And the rest follows on with
right.
that.
It is absolutely true. Absolutely true. And I wonder if I can. We've just literally today launched a series of free videos
I
about.
was just going to ask you about
Oh, okay.
that. You got
Okay.
in there first.
Oh, sorry. I was just thinking because it was so relevant.
Yeah.
And the free videos are about attracting all the customers that you want. And the first one talks about the mistakes that people make that mean that they don't attract people.
Yeah.
And that's the one that's launched today. So if you want to get hold of them, you just go and opt in.
I'll put a link.
Oh, you'll put a link on, will you? That would be brilliant.
Yeah.
Well, it's extraordinaryresults.co.uk.
Cool.
Is where you opt in. So, and I hope that you enjoy those free videos if you want to take any of this a little bit further.
And what I'll also do is underneath the interview, we'll put links where people can get hold of you for different things that you do.
Oh, okay.
And
Thank
find
you.
out more about you, because obviously, you know, you can tell you have so much knowledge and so many skills that you share with business owners.
Well,
and I'm sure there's going to be people going, but how do I find out more about us? So we'll put those links underneath as well.
Thank you. Well, it's been fantastic talking to you. I've really enjoyed it. Thank you. And you've sort of made, because you've asked me things I don't get asked very often. So, it's very interesting to sort of articulate things, how did you get into business and stuff like that. These things I sort of, I don't normally go into. So it's very lovely to be asked. So thank you.
You're very welcome. And it has been excellent and a real pleasure to have you on the show. And maybe you'll come back again later sometime.
I would love to.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
My pleasure. Thank you.